The next item of business is a statement by Paul Wheelhouse on the proposed national plan for Scotland's islands. The Minister will take questions at the end of his statement, so there should be no interventions or interruptions, and members will note that they had headphones on their desks to facilitate translation from Gaelic into... And the very member that I thought was going to be using Gaelic this afternoon is sitting shaking his head. Alice.
Just explain, I've just been told that the Gaelic translator is stuck in traffic, so I will translate myself.
Oh well, we shall have double the time for Mr Allen's question this afternoon. I therefore call on Paul Wheelhouse up to 10 minutes, please, Minister.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Today marks an important step forward in the historic journey for our islands that began with the passing of the Islands Scotland Act on the 30th of May last year. Presiding Officer, I am pleased to publish the first ever draft national plan for Scotland's islands. Part 2 of the Act requires the development of such a plan and that it should be set out the main objectives and strategy of the Scottish Ministers in relation to improving outcomes for island communities that result from or are contributed to by the carrying out of functions of a public nature. Section 3 sets out what some of the outcomes are, and Section 4 sets out how the plan should be developed, with provision at Section 4, subsection 3, for the proposed plan to be laid before Parliament for 40 days and for the final plan to be published within a year of this section of the Act coming into force. I can confirm, Presiding Officer, that we laid the proposed National Islands Plan before Parliament on Thursday the 3rd of October and that we're on track to meet these statutory requirements. Just as importantly, we have developed a plan which reflects not just the statutory outcomes, but also the priorities of island inhabitants and communities. And I hope the proposed plan shows that we have listened and we have heard their voices. The extent of our engagement has been significant. Since spring, we have visited 41 of Scotland's islands, from Arran to Unst, and everywhere in between. We have held 61 events and meetings on those islands, attended by almost 1,000 people of all ages and backgrounds. We have also engaged online with almost over 400 respondents and consulted specifically with local authorities and other agencies and stakeholder bodies with an interest in islands in Scotland. And I want to thank everyone who attended an event or responded to the online consultation. In particular, I'm grateful to the very many people involved in helping to organise the logistics of such events, including the Islands team in the Scottish Government, Scottish Islands Federation, our partners at the University of Strathclyde and local authority colleagues as well. The Islands Scotland Act recognises areas where action is needed to improve outcomes for island communities. The proposed plan's strategic objectives reflect this, and you'll find within it commitments to address sustainable economic development, community empowerment, increasing population levels, climate change and many others. Indeed, there are 13 strategic objectives which are important to improving the quality of life for island communities. Each objective is underpinned by a series of actions and commitments, and there are 104 in total. Key themes emerged throughout the consultation, and the plan is drafted to reflect those. Our proposed National Island Plan focuses on what is fair, integrated, green and inclusive. It is a fair plan that aims to promote, deliver and enhance equality for islanders in every aspect of their lives. Its human rights approach will support greater accountability and help to ensure that rights are respected, protected and fulfilled. It's an integrated plan that promotes joined-up services, focusing on the importance of place to island life and the need to ensure service delivery is cohesive and policy making is holistic. Islanders were clear that issues and challenges overlap and connect, so the plan seeks to build economic, social and environmental considerations in an integrated approach to policy development and service design. It's a green plan that aims to harness and unleash the potential of a green and blue economy. Islanders are acutely aware not only of the fragility and vulnerability of their environments and the need to adapt to climate change, but also of the possibilities and opportunities for their communities to help Scotland drive forward its ambitions on decarbonising our energy system and wider economy, and to continue to lead the world in climate action. It's entirely fitting, therefore, to be delivering this statement to you during Scotland's Climate Week. It's an inclusive plan which promotes community empowerment at the local level, and we've tried to better understand islanders' desire to have decisions taken as close as possible to where the impact of those decisions will be experienced, and to reflect that throughout the plan's commitments. And I also hope the plan reflects one other key finding from the consultation. There is no doubt that Scotland's islands face and will continue to face challenges and issues which are often unique to island life. But what also came across loud and clear is that while no two islands are the same, Scotland's island communities and people are hugely resilient, with a willingness to adapt and innovate, with huge core strengths and talents to build on. Presiding Officer, Scotland's islands are not a problem for us to solve. Yes, they face a variety of challenges, just as any community would, but they are also success to be celebrated, to be nurtured and supported, so they can build on current foundations and to ensure secure and sustainable futures. And in doing so, they will help show the way for the rest of Scotland too. Nowhere is that more evident in the attitudes of young people living on islands. During the consultation, we held events specifically for young people and heard their views and experiences and their hopes and aspirations for the future. A key theme was their desire to stay or to leave for a while but then return to realise their dreams in the communities they grew up in. They have a role to play in taking forward implementation of the plan, and that is why in the programme for government we have committed to creating a Young Islanders Network. The Young Islanders Network will include children of all ages, and it will help to ensure that the actions developed to take forward the plan take full account of the interests and priorities of young people on the islands, and also connects with young islanders living on the mainland. We will seek to develop actions that will help make a positive impact on depopulation, which support growing up on Scotland's islands and encourage the return of young people and adults to the islands. Presiding Officer, I am aware that a plan and the objectives and commitments within it are only part of the answer. Island authorities and communities rightly want to be assured that this plan will translate into action. For the National Islands Plan to be successful, we need national government, local government and other public agencies working closely together and sharing resources to ensure delivery. Improving outcomes for island communities is not just my job nor that of my islands team. To tackle issues like fuel poverty, to improve transport services, housing and to help sustain economic development, action is required across government. And I'm pleased that work in this regard is already underway, with islands impact assessments being trialled and progress being made on key matters like ferries to provide increased security of provision for communities. And there must also be work across all public agencies to harness the widest range of opportunities to improve outcomes, not only in their specific fields, but also to help deliver on this plan's key themes. Work to develop an implementation strategy is already underway, and it will set out clear and measurable actions for each of the strategic objectives. Some of the commitments will be achieved in the short to medium term, whilst others will require a longer period for delivery, some even beyond the lifespan of this version of the National Plan. We are also developing indicators so that we can carefully measure our progress in achieving these actions with clear timescales, budgets and partners identified. And the implementation strategy needs to be pragmatic but also ambitious. And that is the approach taken in the proposed National Plan. Parliament now has 40 days to consider it, and I'm happy to engage with members individually and also committees to hear their views. But during this period, we should also take some time to reflect on what Scotland is achieving here. We are one of very few countries in the world to have a dedicated place-based piece of legislation on islands. In Europe, our friends in Croatia have a similar one, albeit with different circumstances, but our Act and this plan are unique. Scotland was one of the first countries to embrace the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and these are weaved throughout the plan. And to promote fairness and equality on Scotland's islands, the plan embeds a strong human rights dimension. Through the development, launch and the future implementation of the National Islands Plan, Scotland is showing to the rest of the world, as well as to our own island communities, that islands are important and their voice is strong. But we should also not lose sight of our purpose. We want more young people to stay on the islands of their birth and to have fulfilling lives and contribute to the success of their communities. I would love to see both those who have left and new islanders provided with opportunities to make our islands their home. We want more businesses to start up and locate in the islands, creating jobs that pay well and contribute to Scotland's wider economic ambitions. We want our islands to build on their cultural and artistic heritage for their own sense of well-being, but also to attract more people to visit and to share in all that they have to offer. And we want islands' unique landscapes to be protected and enhanced, providing a sustainable environment for all animals and humans who live there. Ultimately, we want our islands to thrive now and in the future, and we want the people who live there to live good lives and to feel valued as an important part of Scotland, the Scotland of today and tomorrow. And at the risk of murdering a phrase in Gaelic, Presiding Officer, there is a Gaelic saying, which is "She oper laha to shuki," which means this is just the start. The views, ideas, enthusiasm and experience of islanders have been vital in shaping this work and in bringing the proposed National Plan for Scotland's islands to life. And I am pleased to lay it before Parliament. With apologies to Dr Allen for my hideous pronunciation of Gaelic, I hope he forgives me. Thank you very much.
The Minister will now take questions on the issues raised in his statements. Now, I'll allow around 20 minutes for that. We are really pushed for time, so I'd appreciate brevity, because I can't go over that. And I now call Jamie Green.
Can I thank the Minister for advance sight of the statement? The island's ministerial role is perhaps a coveted one, given the beauty and variety of Scotland's islands, but equally it's a challenging one, such as the nature of island life, their economies, connectivity and the unique challenges that our islands face. It is also fitting, Presiding Officer, that we discuss this island plans today on a day when so many of our islanders are cut off from the mainland. The current situation, for example, on Arran is one that should be unacceptable to all of us in this chamber. But it does typify the many challenges that our islands are presented with, but also typifies how well the government is responding to those challenges. So let me ask some wider questions on the plan, given that one island's council leader has already described the plan as aspirational, but lacking in substance. First of all, nowhere in today's plan, or indeed the statement, has mention been made of whether additional financial resource will be allocated to either central government directorates or local authorities to assist in meeting the 13 strategic objectives. Secondly, does the plan address the fact, or indeed propose a solution to the reality that we need at least a dozen new replacement vessels to service our ferry networks in the coming years? And thirdly, and importantly, will the plan propose tangible and realistic solutions to the problem of population decline on our islands, including the creation of jobs designed to attract and retain people?
Paul Wheelhouse.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. I think on the point that is made by Mr Green on ferries, I absolutely recognise the importance of ferries, and indeed it's one of the top priorities that came out from Islanders' perspective about connectivity and transport. We're not dodging that in the slightest, and if the member is interested in Strategic Objectives 3, which sets out a number of measures to improve transport services on page 27 of the plan, there are specific mentions in there about the need to invest in ferries to take forward the vessel replacement deployment plan and to seek the pipeline of new vessels that he has referenced in his answer. In regards to the resourcing issue which he references, there's obviously a requirement that we will have to develop the implementation plan. As I said in my statement, that's already work that's underway. We are building the team to respond to that, and clearly we are trying to identify the resources that need to go with the actions, and that's one of the things we want to discuss with our island authority partners and also with other stakeholders to identify what actions can be done and what time frame in terms of short, medium, long term, and who's responsible for those actions, who needs to collaborate to deliver those actions, and what resources are required to deliver them. So I definitely do recognise that point. On the point that he mentions around one of the leaders of the island authorities describing it as aspirational but lacking in substance, I would say that we have engaged very thoroughly. There are 25 meetings we've had with island authorities and their partners in the preparation of the proposed plan that we've laid last week, and I'm talking about today. We are now in a process in the next 40 days. We'll engage very substantively with those local authority partners again to take forward any recommendations they have for a modification to the plan. We recognise it's a proposed plan, not the final plan, and we want to work with them on that. But I want to reassure them we have engaged very considerably, and there's tremendous effort being made by the Islands team to engage with local authorities. So we'll continue that process now and hope to address any concerns they have.
I call Colin Smith.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and can I thank the Minister for advance sight of his statement. And as the translator's not here, I'll stick to English in my questions, Presiding Officer. From feeling distant from decision makers in Edinburgh and the impact of depopulation to the cost of transport and the lack of capacity on ferries, Islanders have set out very clearly in the response to the consultation over this report that there are genuine fears over the future of some island communities. Well, there's little to disagree with in the strategic objectives within the report published by the government. Islanders want to see meaningful action to address the challenges they face, not promises of more consultation, more plans, more research. The Minister has said several times this afternoon that an implementation plan is being developed and there will be clear, meaningful actions. Now, given it has already been over a year since the Islands Act was passed, when exactly will we see this implementation plan with detailed actions and a clear timescale to implement those actions?
Paul Wheelhouse.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Colin Smith raises a very fair point. I've mentioned the implementation plan a number of times. As I say, we've started work on that and to try and take forward the 104 commitments that are listed in the plan. There's a whole chapter in the proposed plan setting out our commitments to support effective implementation, which will hopefully help members in the meantime. We are sitting down to try and work out a set of indicators which we'll need to be able to monitor success against the outcomes that are sought and the commitments in the plan. and they are being developed for each outcome and objective in collaboration with key delivery partners. Once those have been developed, these indicators will be presented for comment and feedback to specific island stakeholders, after which the indicators will be tailored and then finalised with their support, hopefully. One action from the Island Strategic Group meeting that I had in August with the island authorities is that we're also taking forward work through the Scottish Government's Islands team in establishing a new partnership group of Scottish Government and local authority officials, and that group will be fully involved in the development and implementation strategy and of the implementation strategy and the associated measurable outcomes. So I hope that helps give some reassurance to Colin Smith, but I'm very happy to meet with Colin Smith and indeed any other members who wish to discuss this in the 40-day period and make sure you've got a chance to influence it.
Would all those who wish to ask a question please press the request to speak buttons, and I call Alistair Allen to be followed by Jamie Halcrow-Johnson.
Maar ik winst ha kreelno na haar of sloer en mes na doel en de smoor ha van de hele en nier. Ha fast out of sloer in liste en misk en Amazon is kutter met je aan nach de Nederland. En voor de minister Visserige gehoord het kimmer was plannen nationaal in de Nederland het tobas oort is show en bij jeder counter een adem sloer vat no klaarker slachten toegele counter clown scholar met exemplar. As the Minister will be aware, tackling depopulation is the major challenge that faces the Western Isles, and increasing population levels is listed as one of the key outcomes in the Islands Act. Can the Minister outline what measures the National Islands Plan will use to measure outcomes on tackling depopulation? Will it simply be a measure of total population levels or some other metric, such as the number of school children?
Paul Wheelhouse.
It was a very important question, and it sort of builds on a point that was made by Colin Smith as well. So I very much want to recognise Dr Allen's concern around depopulation, and that is indeed a view that's been endorsed by respondents to the consultation from the Western Isles and other areas. Indeed, particularly some of the archipelagos, we're seeing outer islands being depopulated, while the mainland and Orkney and Shetland is seeing population growth. So across the islands, but particularly I know it's a problem in the Western Isles, it is a key priority. So it's likely that we'll use a broad range of metrics in answer to Dr Allen's point to measure outcomes relating to depopulation. Indicators and metrics are being developed for each outcome in this particular area with key delivery partners. And once, as I said to Colin Smith, once they are co-developed, these indicators will be presented for comment and feedback to specific island stakeholders. The programme for government includes a number of commitments already underway, which will support the ambition in the plan to increase population levels. And these include work on talent attraction, labour market policies, housing and planning, recognising specific challenges that island communities face and indeed some very remote rural communities face, where there's a specific commitment to develop an action plan to support repopulation of our island communities and work with partners to test approaches using small-scale pilots as well. So we'll work with the Young Islanders Network as well to identify actions to encourage them to stay on and return to the islands. And myself and my colleague Ivan McKee and other ministerial colleagues sit on the Ministerial Population Task Force led by Fiona Hislop, and we're also looking at how we can look at population metrics in the context of the National Performance Framework as well, Presiding Officer.
Jamie Halcrow-Johnson, followed by Kenneth Gibson.
Thank you very much, Deputy Presiding Officer. The single issue that was raised most by participants in the consultations discussion events was transport. It recognises the considerable cost of transport within, to and from the islands, the effect on affordability and the wider impact on the islands' economies. But while parts of the proposed plan relates to ferries, there is no discussion whatsoever of existing or new fixed links between islands. So can the Minister commit today, at the very least, that a consideration of future fixed links will be part of the implementation plan when it arrives?
Paul Wheelhouse.
It's a reasonable point that Jamie Halcrow-Johnson makes about fixed links. Clearly, we'll reflect on that if it's been raised by islanders themselves and not reflected in the plan. We obviously tried to reflect as much as we could of what's being raised. I want to give him some reassurance, though, that these issues are being considered by the Transport Secretary and Michael Matheson in the context of the work around the Strategic Transport Projects Review and the National Transport Strategy. So we are looking at the context of fixed links versus ferry links in that, because there have been some particular projects that have been suggested by local communities across Scotland. So the issue is not being ignored. We'll make sure we reflect on the point he has raised, and if that is an issue that islanders have raised as a priority for them, we will certainly reflect that in future drafts.
Kenneth Gibson, followed by Rhoda Grant.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Minister, having a workable islands plan is important. However, it's critical that islanders can access the mainland and that visitors can do so and visit our islands. We are currently in an extraordinary situation where both Ardrossan link spans and Gourock link span are out of service, and vessels are struggling to tie up at Troon, causing havoc with the Arran ferry service. How has this shocking state of affairs happened, and when will it be resolved?
Paul Wheelhouse.
Well, firstly, I should say, Presiding Officer, I very much recognise the frustration, the huge frustration there will be, not just for Mr Gibson, but his constituents at the situation that's arisen. I note that yesterday that certainly the failure of the link span in Ardrossan Peel's ports have actually apologised to customers for that, and I welcome their engagement to try and rectify the situation. Subsequently, following the link span failure on Saturday, the replacement motor, I can reassure Mr Gibson, has arrived in Irvine and is ready to be transported to Ardrossan this afternoon. Timescales for the work include installation and tests, which, if successful, could see the link span back in service this evening. But obviously, we'll have to wait and see how that goes. There will be an update from Peel Ports in relation to this roughly about 3:30 today, so it may be happening as we speak. The southwesterly wind direction, unfortunately, at Troon, which was deemed to be the alternate harbour for the period of the repairs, and the gusting speeds in excess of 30 knots are having an impact on the MV Caledonian Isles, and it doesn't have enough power to safely get off the berth in these conditions. So unfortunately, that's meant it's resulted in a passenger-only service being Broderick and Ardrossan currently operating. And this is the Master's decision, and I'm sure Mr Gibson is aware of the legal position on that. CalMac fully supports that decision on the grounds of safety, and so do we. But the recent link span issues at Gourock are being managed effectively by both CMAL and CalMac, and engineers will assess the scale of works tomorrow, with repairs hopefully starting in a week commencing 21st of October.
Rhoda Grant, followed by John Finney.
The plan deals with depopulation by promising another plan. We all know what needs to be done to address depopulation. People need a job, they need a home, and they need access to transport and services. Therefore, will he prevail on his colleagues to stop the damaging centralisation of air traffic control, which will remove high-quality jobs from our islands?
Paul Wheelhouse.
Well, I certainly would want to just without any disrespect to Rhoda Grant, just point back that the local authorities themselves have been encouraging us to develop an implementation plan. So I think the first part of our question, I recognise why she's asking it. I know that communities are keen to see action taken quickly, and we will go as quickly as we can, but we need to be able to prepare our actions properly, effectively, make sure they're properly resourced, as has been raised by other members today. So the implementation plan is underway. It hopefully won't take a huge amount of time to prepare if we work together with local authorities, and we'll address that. On the issue of the air traffic control, it's a hugely sensitive issue. I appreciate the impact it's going to have on some particular individuals and families, and we are encouraging HIAL to work with those individuals to try and make the new arrangements work as effectively for them, and trying to ensure that there's as little disruption to family life for those individuals affected as possible. But happy again, I'm sure Mr Matheson, as Cabinet Secretary, or myself would be happy to meet with Rhoda Grant to discuss that.
John Finney, followed by Beatrice Wishart.
Thank you very much indeed, Presiding Officer. Minister, the First Minister declared a climate emergency, said everything would be up for review. Now, on page 24 of this proposed National Island Plan, the Scottish Government's yet again trumping its commitment to dualling the A9, telling us of the benefits to the islands that will bring. Minister, that's a £3 billion project. That's money that would replace the fleet. The revenue cost for maintaining a dualling road could actually contribute to the running of the internal ferry systems. If you did replace that fleet, of course, that would be work for Ferguson's as well. The Northern Isles internal ferries are something very tangible that you could do. Will you undertake to, as the First Minister initially committed, review this obscene expenditure of £3 billion and £3 billion in the 96 and direct this to something constructive like the internal ferries?
Paul Wheelhouse.
I recognise John Finney and indeed his colleagues' long-standing opposition to investment in major roads. Obviously, we may have to disagree on this issue, but what I would also point out to Mr Finney is that the importance of the A9 for seafood producers and others to get their goods to market. So clearly that's a very important arterial route for getting product from the islands to the mainland, and then on to the mainland to the continent, because the steamage time for ferries from the Northern Isles to Aberdeen is obviously a barrier in some respects to some products reaching market on time, and others it's fine. But we need to try and ensure there's a range of options. If you're sitting in the Orkney Islands, as I'm sure Mr Finney does on a regular basis for surgeries and so forth, getting goods from Orkney to the mainland quickly across the Scrabs or Stormness route and then down through the A9 is perhaps one of the preferred ways of getting goods to market. So I would just ask him to recognise the importance of trunk roads like the A9 for that. Clearly, in terms of the Northern Isles internal ferry services, we are engaging with both local authorities at this moment in time to try and identify, and been very helpful and constructive discussions with them about the costs they face in maintaining good quality services in the islands, and we are engaging constructively with them, but it's too early yet to say where that will end.
Beatrice Wishart, followed by Stuart Stevenson.
I thank the Minister for early sight of his statement and recognise the work that's been done to get to this point. The Government recognises that transport services are a key factor in the ability of islanders to fulfil their basic human rights. Will the Government commit to full and fair ferry funding in the upcoming budget so islanders in Shetland finally have their basic needs met?
Paul Wheelhouse.
Well, can I first of all say, I think it's the first question I've responded to from Beatrice Wishart, to welcome her to the Chamber, Presiding Officer, in that respect. And we certainly will, as I've outlined in my response to John Finney, be engaging very much with both local authorities to try and see what we can do. So the commitment is there to work with both councils. There, as the member may know, there are some significant capital costs that are required to upgrade ferry services in Shetland and indeed Orkney. And it's too early yet to say where we'll get to. So it's not just an issue of recurrent funding, but there's obviously a capital investment required in both areas. And we're very sympathetic to both authorities, given the historic position they find themselves in. Pre-devolution arrangement has extended to the current date. And we're trying to work with both authorities in a constructive manner. But I will hope to keep members informed of progress on that.
Stuart Stevenson, followed by Donald Cameron.
What progress is being made to introduce other measures in the island's legislation?
Paul Wheelhouse.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I think probably there are two main areas that I would like to flag up today, if I may, regarding the additional work we are taking forward in terms of the Islands Act. The first of them being the Islands Community Impact Assessments, and Section 8 of the Islands Scotland Act 2018, which refers to island communities' impact assessments, has not yet been commenced, and work on the guidance and templates for this provision is being progressed in tandem with work in the National Islands Plan, with a view to ensuring it's commenced as soon as possible. Policy instructions are being drafted and officials are working to finalise an illustrative timetable. Ideally, the regulations will come into force early in 2020. And indeed, the second area which members may be aware of is that we are currently progressing the Additional Powers Request Scotland Regulations 2019, which were laid in Parliament on the 5th of July this year. And the next step, this is the next obvious step in implementation of the Islands Act. And the regulations will come into force in mid-November at the latest, subject to approval being obtained from Parliament. And non-statutory guidance is being developed collaboratively with the 6 relevant local authorities and will accompany the regulations coming into force. There's still a lot of work to do, and we recognise that, but a lot of progress has been made.
Donald Cameron, followed by Liam MacArthur.
The plan refers to the Scottish Government's R100 target at page 34. Given that islands will be some of the last places to be digitally connected, does the Minister accept that the likely failure of the Scottish Government to meet its 2021 target in relation to R100 will disproportionately affect our island communities?
Paul Wheelhouse.
Well, certainly Donald Cameron raises a very important matter. Digital connectivity has come out very strongly in the feedback from islanders as to things they need to see investment in. I would gently point out, and I'll do it gently because it's not that kind of day, that these are both legal and regulatory responsibilities of the UK Government, and we are trying to intervene to ensure that we address a market failure which has been left by a failure of the UK market to deliver for remote island communities across the whole of the UK, not just in Scotland. So we are, as the member knows, in the final stages of our procurement of R100. I hope to be able to update Parliament very shortly on the outcome for the North lot, and indeed the Central and South lots. But I'm optimistic a good outcome will be sought, and we have indeed mandated areas in the R100 bids in some of our island areas, such as communities like Yell, to ensure that island communities are amongst those that are the main beneficiaries of the programme.
And the last question goes to Liam MacArthur.
Deputy Presiding Officer, well, I thank those who have been involved in facilitating the consultation on the plan. The leader of Orkney Islands Council has criticised it for having no commitments and being without any real substance. So will the Minister reassure my constituents that in relation to lifeline transport links, the Government is now ready to deliver both on the new vessels and sustainable funding required for Orkney's internal services, but also the additional freight capacity needed on the Northern Isles routes?
Paul Wheelhouse.
On the point around internal ferry services, I think I've answered quite fully to members already, but I will use the time to reference the freight services. Now, clearly in the consequence of the procurement exercise for the North Link services being concluded, we're now in the process of trying to work through the negotiations with the preferred bidder, and obviously there's a standstill period, as the member knows, which we have to respect in case to give CalMac the opportunity to challenge if need be. But we are keen to work with the industries in the islands to understand their freight requirements going forward. We've built in flexibility into the contract to allow that to happen, should there need to be modification to freight services in due course. On the point around the comments from Leader of Orkney Islands Council, I would stress that we have had very positive engagement with Councillor Stockin and his colleagues at Orkney Islands Council. Several of the 25 meetings we have had been with Orkney Islands Council and their colleagues, and indeed at the Island Strategic Group, Councillor Stockin was made aware of what was in the draft plan and did not object to it at that point. There is an issue around the additional powers request regulations and the appeal mechanism that I know Orkney Island Council and others were concerned about, but we are working with them to try and address that through guidance.
That concludes questions on the Minister's statement on the proposed national plan for Scotland's Islands. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to take questions from Tom Arthur or Angus MacDonald. If members could move quickly, please, we can get on to the next item of business.